Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Our video lecture is about a poem, Inklings from the Dock. It is written by a Kashmiri poet, rather very famous poet of Kashmir, Rahman, Professor Rahman Rahi. The poem is actually written in Kashmiri and is translated by Professor J.R. Malik. Professor J.R. Malik is also a Kashmiri. Rahman Rahi, born in 1925, is a very famous and outstanding Kashmiri poet. He has authored several books of poems and literary criticism. He has been awarded profoundly, including the Sahitya Academy Award, Kabir Saman, and the American-based Irfan Ketwari Foundation Award. Today's poem, The Inklings from the Dock, it is a translation of his Kashmiri poem Paichu Zulmat Wazan. Paichu Zulmat Wazan. Let's take up the actual contents of our poem. I will read it for you. Yesternight my sleep driven off and the thread of my fancies slit. I espied an eagle in the wild shadows of my mind. On its beak in the same old-fashioned smeltered the blood of the dove, whose feathers were shed by hilltops into the atmosphere. Turning my head on the pillow, I sighted a deep dark chasm, and rose and leaned my back against the wall with the cool of winter in the narrow of my breast. This it is first stanza. It is comprised of 8 lines. The poet was in sleep, but he got much disturbed in his sleep. Means his sleep was taken away from him, snatched away from him, and he got into fancies. His mind got full into imaginations. And what he says in his imaginations, he sees an eagle. Eagle is a predator. The eagle in its claws or in its beak was its victim, the dove. The eagle is the indication of the powerful, the strong, and dove is the indication of, or the symbol of, the weak, the victim, or the oppressed one. On its beak in the same old-fashioned smoldered the blood of the dove. And what had happened? Blood was oozing out. It was smoldered, rather it was festered by the power of the eagle. And its feathers were scattered all over the hilltop, all around. And it was flowing slowly, and it was being attracted by the ground on the hilltop because it was scattered by the power of the cruel eagle. Turning my head on the pillow, I sighed a deep, dark chasm and rose and leaned my back against the wall. Turning my head when I changed my position somehow, I was leaned against the pillow, and she cited the poet cites a deep chasm, a gap or the opening. He cites it and rose and leaned my back against the wall with the cool of the winter in the marrow of my breast. And when he rose up, it was winter. In Kashmir, the winter is very harsh and cold. Almost the cold of the winter is quite unbearable, unless and until you have a support of something which could warm you. And same happened with the poet. The poet, as soon as he tried to rise up, the biting cold attacked him, and it bites deep into his marrow, deep into his bones, and he felt completely bitten by the cold, or he disturbed by the cold. My lips froze dry as whispering reached from the outside the window. But that was not the only thing happened to the poet. Another thing was that the poet he heard some whispering, something outside, someone something like gossiping. He noticed it, or he heard it. The snowflakes were sailing, and these whisperings got him much disturbed. Also, the snowflakes were sailing into the shelter of the crevices, these gapes, these openings, which were which were visible, quite visible in his room or in his resting place. Through these crevices or through these gaps, some snowflakes were coming in. They were coming in, flowing in. Not a mouse did creep from under the box to the store cabinet. And another image the poet has created is the image of the mouse. He finds a mouse, and he finds, like him, he finds the mouse also disturbed. Mouse is also stirred, or he's also frightened, because he's under the table. He has no power to move to his cabinet. In place of my upper garment, a cat hung by the hanger. And one another thing the poet notes it here. He finds the cat hanging by the hanger, rubbing my eyes. Now, when the poet noticing some surprising things, some disturbing things, disturbing scenes all around him, and he it looks that he decides himself in his hottest hopes whether he sees these scenes in a reality, or he is in his dream. So therefore he tried to rub his eyes. I tried to pull the guilt up to my cold back. The poet says that I tried to pull the guilt. उर्दू में कहते हैं कि जैसे वो लिहाफ है, रजाई है, उसको उसने खींचने की कोशिश की. But oh, the hungry shock and the cold helpless ashes kissed my feet. But what happened there? This is the personification. The hungry shock and the cold helpless ash kissed my feet. Kongri is a Kashmiri designed pot which is used for warming, which people use it for warming themselves during winter, during cold. And without Kongri, our Kashmiri homes are incomplete without Kongri during the cold. We all know it. And the poet, as soon as he tried to pull the kilt, the ashes which have become cold, it got stuck to the poet's feet. The ashes were cold. Well, the owl hooted outside, and outside came the voice of the owl. And owl is the indication of the ominous atmosphere. Oh, woe to you! Woe that you are not in good state of your luck. You are not in a good state of your mind. You are not in a good state of your affairs. Fain would I have raised a cry of lament, and I would have raised the cry of the lament. I would have raised the cry of repentance, had my heart stood by me, but I was out of sorts. I was not in the state of my mind, in the good state of my mind. Suddenly I called to my mind my darling son. How rapidly did he listen to my bad tales telling. But all of a sudden, what I thought, the scene of my imaginations came to my the scene of the image of my son came to my mind, and who was listening yesterday night, who was listening. Very interestingly, the story is told by his father, but the story was rather incomplete when his son fell into sleep. When I told him the agony of the oyster in her travails, and I have told him about the oyster. Oyster is a large flat animal which lives in a shell, and later he is the one should say the creator of the pearl. These travails means the agony, the pain one suffers during or before a childbirth. But he only heard the part of the tale when sleep overtook him. As I earlier told you that the son of the poet, he was listening the tale from his father very interestingly. When the sleep overtook him, I rose like a moonstruck man and turned on the light. In this imagination made me very crazy, and I got up immediately and I turned the lights on and found him lying by the wall like a mushroom on the mount, and I found him comfortably lying by the wall. He was fell into a deep sleep, in a deep slumber, just like a mushroom on the mount. In deep slumber, with fragrant blossoms blooming on his lips. And the poet has described the sleep of his son. He calls his sleep a very deep slumber, and he caricatured his lips as the fragrant blossoms of a flower. His lips were producing the image of a fragrant flower or something else. And a drop of sweat turned afresh playing on his brow, and at once, just like the pearl came out of his brow, it was a drop of sweat, and fresh drop of sweat came out on his brow. Perchance he was dreaming the rest of the tale. Perhaps the tale which was which have remained incompleted because the sleep have overtook him. The poet imagines that uh, uh, in fact what was happening to his son, he was dreaming about the further part of the tale which I was narrating to him. I was telling him yesterday night when when the sleep overtook him. Perchance the oyster had labored forth the pearl, and meanwhile the oyster, which was suffering from the birth pain, he has given out a pearl, and this is the last line of the poem. Now, this poem is said to be, this is a metaphysical poem. At the bottom of the poem, it's written, the poet uses the complex and elaborate images to express the emotional state. Metaphysical poems are the lyric poems. They are brief but intense meditations. Means metaphysical poems are very brief, but there is lot of meditation in them, lot of pondering in them, lot of imagination in them, characterized by the striking of the wit, irony, and the wordplay. Lot of wordplay. The poets use lot of words. They play with the words. They use different poetic techniques, irony and wit and other techniques, also metaphors, similes in such like poems, and rhyme, meter and stanzas are out of question in such like poems. Next thing, the poet has used some poetic techniques in the poem. In the first line, the metaphor is used, the thread of my fancy is slit. This is a metaphor. And in the last line of the first para, the cool of the winter in the marrow of my breast. It's also a metaphor. And next line, in the line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth line, the hapless ashes kissed my feet. Kissing is a trait of a human being. When some non-living being is giving something which is linked, when non-living being is bestowed with something that is especially for a human being, it is a personification technique. So it's a personification here. Hapless ashes kissed my feet. And next is in the last para, I rose like a moonstruck man. I rose like a moonstruck man. It's a simile because like is used here. And in the following line, and found him lying by the wall like a mushroom on the mount. Like a mushroom on the mount is like is again used here, so it's a simile. And the fragrant blossoms blooming on his lips, it's also a metaphor. And a drop of sweat dawned afresh playing on his brow, it's also a metaphor. This is enough for today. This video lecture is completed. This is our lesson number 17, and it's a poem, Inklings from the Dark. It is written by Rahman Rahi. Thank you very much.